In this video we talk about Jetpack Joyride. This is a competitive game. It is an abstract puzzle game, or fairly abstract, but also it has a little bit of a theme. It seems to be inspired by good old 2D platformers. In this game, each player controls a version of this guy here, who is trying to escape from a lab using his jetpack, and so he's zigzagging among obstacles and trying to do different things. At the end of a round, you score points based on the coins that your guy collected and the missions that you completed. We'll talk about missions in a minute. You play 3 rounds. At the end of the 3rd round, the player with the most victory points is the winner of the game. Now, to take a closer look. In the center of the play area, you will place this pile, this heap of pieces. If you play Blockos, they seem to be the same kind of plastic pieces you have in Blockos. In truth, the selection of shapes is different from Blockos, but it is that kind of game piece. You place them there in a messy pile in the middle of the play area. Then each player will have a set of 4 cards. So the cards are numbered from 1 to 4, and each player will have a set of exactly 4 cards, 1 per type, in order from 1 to 4, from left to right. They're also double-sided, so a lot of variety of different labs that you will have. There is a deck of missions at the beginning of each round. You draw 3 missions face up, and they represent different things that will give you points if you complete them. As you're trying to escape in the lab, if you do these things, you will score 3, 3, and 4 victory points respectively. There are also gadgets represented by this deck here, but gadgets only come into play in the 2nd and 3rd round, so let's start from the beginning. Round 1. This would be a setup for round 1. Of course, each player will need to have their own lab. There's still only 1 shared pile of pieces. The game, by the way, is also playable solo, so you can just, actually this could be also a valid setup for a solo game. Now, when the game begins, there are no turns, and let's talk about the multiplayer version. All players play at the same time, and they start grabbing pieces and placing them in their lab. A good rule is to allow players to use only one hand and to take 1 piece at a time, otherwise people can get in each other's way, which is okay if it's an accident, but when people do it on purpose, it is annoying. The first piece, and basically these pieces will form a line that represents where this guy is going, represent, if you want, the contrary left by the jetpack. So you start by entering the lab, and so you place a piece on the left edge, on the left edge of the tile number 1. You must not touch obstacles such as missiles and these electric barriers. And then what do? You place another piece, and the other piece doesn't have to be a single line. It's okay to have some dead ends here and there. But the piece has to be placed orthogonally, has to touch a previous piece by an edge, at least 1 edge, but certainly not by a corner. Again, you cannot cover previous game pieces, you cannot cover obstacles, but you are trying to cover as many coins as possible. And suppose that then later, next, I decide to do this. Mainly just because it's fancy to go through all these obstacles that way. I'm not sure that that is necessarily very savvy. Could I do that? Yes, I could do that. And so on and so forth. Of course, as you do this, you will want to... this is not good. You will want to keep in mind the various missions that are available for completion. So you continue like this until a player has been able to exit the right edge of the 4th tile, or until there aren't enough pieces, to allow the game to proceed. Basically, there are no pieces that can be placed legally in the game. At that point, the round is over. Again, if a player exits first, then everybody has to stop. So there's an advantage in going fast because other players may not have been able to collect a lot of points. On the other hand, again, it's not just about being fast, but doing cool stuff. At the end of a round, each player scores points. You score a point for each coin that you covered as you were escaping from the lab, and you score points for each mission. For example, here you score 3 points if you come back to a sector you already left, if you place 5 tiles in a sector, and so on and so forth. And then you discard these cards and you draw 3 new missions for the following round. Between round 1 and round 2, you also draw a number of gadget cards equal to the number of players. Suppose we have 2 players, you draw these 2 gadgets. Then the player with the fewest points takes 1, and the other players take, well, each player takes 1. Starting with the player with the lowest victory points, the lowest amount of victory points. So it is a balancing mechanic there. And then you can use your gadget in the following turns, doing whatever it is that it says. Sometimes they give you advantages, sometimes they give you ways of scoring points. For example, here by touching certain areas. This is one that allows you to start a little earlier, so maybe you want to then complete your run as soon as possible so other people don't have much time. Here for getting close to missiles and victory point for 3 coins that you grab, and so on and so forth. So these gadgets can be pretty fun. At the end of the second round, each player gets a second gadget. So in round 2 you have 1 gadget, round 3 you have 2 gadgets. You play 3 rounds. Other than that, the gadgets, the rounds are all the same. You play like that for 3 rounds. You can also keep score using the score pad, which frankly seems a little unnecessary because you just need to write out Marco, 14 points, Amelia, 29, and Camilla, 11, that kind of stuff. At the end of the third round, the player with the highest total is the winner of the game. So this is Jetpack Joyride. This is a simple game, quite a fun game, which I just like it. I like the simple idea. I like real-time games because this is one such game. There are no turns, you're just scrambling to go fast and you change your mind, but it's too late. You find yourself a little bit stuck and you look for what's left there and so on and so forth. It has that... It is Tetris with more excitement than the original video game. I don't know, at least comparable. It's a very exciting version of what otherwise may seem like a very dry, abstract game. The theme is a little pasted on, but it's pretty fun. It's cute. The references to good old 2D platformers are definitely enjoyable. I catch them. My daughters don't, and that's perfectly fine. We just look for different things. They enjoy gameplay and I enjoy gameplay and the references. So, and in a sense, then there are also, if you're really good, I guess, you can also try to figure out when there are many game pieces, what the opponents are doing, and maybe take a piece to remove it from there, from them. In truth, the game is mainly a multiplayer solo, because although with other players do affects you, because of course that changes the selection of available pieces, most likely people will not really be able, in the rush of the moment, in the excitement of the moment, to create a strategy around that. Maybe once you got a lucky break, you really see the piece that they need and you just grab it. But for the most part, although people change the resources available to you, functionally speaking, strategy-wise, it is a multiplayer solo, which works great in certain families and groups. My wife, for example, does not like confrontational games, and so she doesn't mind if I take away a piece that she needs, especially if she gets the feeling, right or wrong, that I didn't do it on purpose. However, there is a problem with this game that has vastly reduced the enjoyment of the game. As a simple, light game, as a filler, this could be a blast. This could be one of my 2 simple, light, fun fillers. But there is a problem that will prevent it from being so, which is production. They clearly try to keep the production costs low, and that's not a bad thing. But unfortunately, the inexpensive production hinders gameplay. How? These are very, very light tiles, so I don't know if they'll be very durable, but the problem is that when you put them on the table, they move around a lot. Now here I'm filming on carpet, so actually what you see here, they move less than on an actual table there. At least the carpet is slowing them down a little. Plus, they're very sleek. They're a little bit glossy. You add plastic on them, well, the plastic just slides like a dream. And that's the problem. For me and as an adult, probably you saw me as I was doing it to show it to you that I have to reposition the pieces and the tiles a little bit. You can imagine an 80-year-old, after a while, the poor kid is just trying to have fun and things look incredibly messy, and she's spending more time readjusting the thing than she is adding new things. And then after she has done so, she repositioned everything and she realizes that because of the way pieces moved, then she made an illegal move, for example. And so she asked, can I redo this? As you can imagine, this is not a fictional case. I'm simply retelling the sad story of my daughter playing Jetpack Joyride, because she enjoyed it so much at the beginning. She enjoyed the idea, the theme, it looked funny, the mission about high-fiving the scientist, you just go to the scientist. She loved the idea. And then as she started playing, she grew increasingly frustrated. So that is very sad. The mechanics are simple. I hope, and I think they really, really work. So I hope that one day there will be a deluxe version, then with thicker cardboard tiles, so they're heavy and don't move on the table, with the thick cardboard game pieces, like you have, for example, in Indian Summer, a game that I reviewed recently, has pieces shaped more or less like this one, but they're made of thick cardboard. Make everything in thick cardboard and pieces will not move around nearly as much. The game will be 10 times as enjoyable. Kids will like it. As is, it is a game that is very hard for kids to play with the little fast and slightly inaccurate hand. It's already challenging enough for adults. And kids, I don't know if they're the intended audience, but they definitely are an audience that can enjoy this game a lot. With a different production. In general, as a simple, light, fun filler in real time, Jetpack Joyride, mechanically speaking, from the point of view that the design is really fun, it is definitely marred by an inexpensive production that, alas, makes gameplay less than optimal.